You water it every Sunday. You move it closer to the window when the light fades. You talk to it sometimes when no one else is in the room. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you already know the truth. It does not feel anything when you do this. It cannot. It has no face, no eyes, no scream. It is, as far as you were taught to believe, simply alive. Nothing more. But snap a single leaf off that plant right now, and something happens inside it that has nothing to do with decoration and everything to do with survival. Within seconds, not minutes, seconds, a signal moves through its body. Not blood, not nerves, something else entirely. And that signal is asking a question almost identical to the one your own body asks when you get hurt. What happened? And how do I respond? This is where the comfortable story falls apart. In the 1990s, researchers began noticing something strange in damaged leaves. When a caterpillar bites into a leaf, the wound does not stay local. Within about 90 seconds, a wave moves outward, through the stem, into the roots, up into leaves the caterpillar never touched. Scientists eventually mapped this wave using a glowing protein that lights up wherever calcium moves through a cell. And calcium, inside a living organism, almost always means one thing. A message is being sent in your body. That same kind of signal is how a burn on your finger reaches your brain. In the plant, there is no brain to reach. There is no finger, no nerve, no centralized place where pain becomes pain. And yet, the undamaged leaves, the ones nothing has touched, begin producing defensive chemicals before any threat arrives near them. The plant is not just reacting, it is warning the rest of itself. One part hurts, the whole organism listens. Decode that for a moment. A warning, sent before the danger arrives to parts of the body that have not been touched yet. That is not chemistry behaving randomly. That is chemistry behaving like information. Now go deeper into the molecule itself. The compound carrying this signal is called glutamate. It sounds technical. It is not, really. It is the same molecule that carries pain signals through your own nervous system the moment you touch something too hot. The plant uses it too. Remove it from the equation and the signal stops cold. The rest of the plant gets no warning at all. The wiring is different. The chemical messenger is not. And the response does not stop at one signal. Once the wave arrives, the plant releases a second compound, one that switches entire genes on and off, almost like flipping a row of hidden switches. Cell walls thicken. Toxins begin forming in tissue that moments ago was perfectly calm. Growth itself pauses because every available resource is being redirected toward defense. A plant that was simply existing a minute ago is now, in every measurable sense, bracing for impact. Some plants take this further still. Certain species release invisible compounds into the air the moment they are wounded. Airborne warnings drifting toward neighbors who have not been touched at all. Those neighboring plants detect the warning and quietly begin their own defenses before any insect has reached them. No mouths, no ears, no voice you would ever hear. And yet, somehow, a message has traveled and been understood. This is the part scientists still argue about late at night, in conference halls, in journals, in heated emails. Does using the same molecule for the same purpose mean the experience is the same? Most would say no. A plant has no brain to interpret the signal as suffering. There is, as far as anyone can prove, no inner experience inside it. No one home to feel anything go wrong. But here is the uncomfortable history. Humans have been wrong about this exact question before. Not once. Several times. For decades, scientists insisted insects could not feel pain until researchers found the same damage-detecting cells inside them that exist inside your own skin. For decades, scientists insisted fish could not feel pain until the evidence showed identical stress hormones, identical nerve pathways, identical behavioral responses to injury. Each time the line moved, each time what was once just chemistry turned out to be something closer to feeling. So now the line sits at plants, and the line is shakier than most people assume. Think about how strange that pattern really is. Each time the confidence was total. Each time it turned out to be wrong. Not because the science itself was bad, but because the question was built on a flawed assumption from the start that suffering only counts if it looks the way your suffering looks. A scream. A flinch. A face twisted in distress. Nothing else qualified. Nothing else was even considered worth testing, until someone finally decided to test it anyway. There is a researcher who tested something most scientists would not have thought to try. She used a small, sensitive plant, the kind whose leaves fold shut at the slightest touch, and dropped it gently over and over from a height too small to cause harm. At first, it folded every time, as if startled. After enough repetitions, it stopped folding completely. It had, in some sense, learned the fall was not a threat. When she switched to shaking it instead, a different kind of disturbance, it folded immediately again. It had not simply gotten tired. It had remembered the difference. Memory, without a brain. That sentence should sit with you for a moment before moving on. None of this proves suffering. It does not prove a plant lies awake, metaphorically speaking, dreading the next time someone reaches for the scissors. What it proves is something quieter, and in some ways, stranger. That the boundary between reacting and feeling is far blurrier than you were ever taught in school. Every test humanity has ever built to detect suffering was built around a face, a voice, a body that moves away from harm. A plant fails every single one of those tests. By design. It was never built to perform for an audience. Here is the modern mirror, the part that should follow you out of this video and into your kitchen, your balcony, your windowsill. Every time you pull a weed, snap a stem, or trim a leaf, something is happening underneath the surface that resembles, at the chemical level, an alarm. Not a scream you can hear, not a face you can read, but a signal racing through tissue, asking the body to respond to harm, and asking the rest of the organism to prepare. Maybe that is not pain in the way you understand pain. Maybe it never will be. But the question was never really about plants. It was about you, and what it takes for something to earn your concern. For centuries, the rule was simple. If it cannot show me it is hurting, in a way I recognize, then it is not hurting at all. So humanity assumed the answer, closed the question, and moved on with its pruning shears. And maybe that rule was never really about fairness at all. Maybe it was about convenience. It is easier to eat, to cut, to clear a field when nothing on the other end can prove it minded. The less something resembles you, the easier it becomes to stop wondering about it entirely. That is not a fact about plants. That is a fact about how human attention works. But assumption is not evidence. It never was. You water it every Sunday. You move it closer to the window when the light fades. And now, perhaps, when you reach for the scissors, you will pause, not because you are certain it feels something, but because, for the first time, you are no longer certain that it does not.